Hello. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different. You know, when I upload a video and I refer to someone or to something that I heard or read, I normally tell you that I will put the link below, yes, with the title and the everything. I don't know whether you actually look at it or whether you care or whether you're interested in it. But in any case, I have to do it because I obviously have to reference the people or the channel that I'm referring to. Today, I'm going to do something different and I'm going to actually put them here, not the whole videos. I have two videos that I want to share with you. And I'm going to do it differently because I was preparing something else and then sometimes it happens after quite a lot of work preparing one video, I come across or I hear of something that I say, no, this is more important and I have to share this video with you. I'm going to introduce two channels. Uh, perhaps quite a lot of you already know them, and perhaps you even follow them. The first one is Lowkey. Now, I had never heard of Lowkey. Apparently, he's a rapper and a political commentator. Well, a rapper, I mean, I wouldn't have come across him at all. I'm in my 70s. You know, I can go back to the 70s when I was in my 20s before I got married and had kids. And but that's as far as I go with popular music. Before that, I don't know, perhaps I can go back to Perry Como or something. All right, so rapper, no. But I heard a few months ago, I heard George Galloway, of all people, saying, oh, have you heard the last song by Lowkey? And Lowkey, what's Lowkey? Because it's a funny name, you know. Lowkey, great song. You have to hear it. He's a political commentator. Well, I didn't take any notice of Lowkey, but yesterday I came across, I was looking at things and about what is happening in the Middle East and President Trump and so on. And there he was with a commentary. And I thought, I'll listen to him. And I was very pleasantly surprised. Um, he's a great commentator. He's very articulate. He can put his what he thinks across very easily. But at the same time, I was actually quite amazed because in his video, which is not very long, I don't know how long it is, perhaps 15 minutes. I'm not going to put the whole video, obviously, just bits and pieces. But um, he's obviously done quite a lot of research for that because he gives arguments and then he tells you. Anyway, so he's done quite a little bit of research. So I think I'm going to follow him from now on. The other YouTube video that I'm going to share with you, bits and pieces again, okay, is due dissidence. These are two American guys, one young, although I think he's married and has three kids, but very young, perhaps in his early 30s, I don't know. And the other one a little bit older, very wise, very wise politically, very astute. And so I follow them. I find it easy to follow them because, well, first of all, they are Jewish, but they don't like what is happening in the Middle East. They do not agree with Israel's stand, let's put it that way. I think it's probably an understatement, but they don't agree at all with it. And I don't suppose they are in a majority within the Jewish community. I don't know, but they certainly don't agree with that. Also, they're very astute politically, really. I remember that they're very easy to follow because they have segments, different topics, and they tell you today we're going to talk about this topic and this topic and this topic, and they separate them, and so you can listen to, the topic that interests you, and that's it. You don't have to follow the other if it doesn't. So they're very easy to listen to. also because I said that they're very politically astute. When President Trump got elected, I remember them saying that he was the better choice than the other candidate, Kamala Harris, but they wouldn't necessarily vote for him, and they gave the reasons and so on. But after he got elected, they said very early on that the MAGA people, it would not be long for them to be disappointed because of this and that, and they would give their reasons. They thought that the whole thing was the whole MAGA movement was going to end up breaking or separating or dividing, something like that. And they were giving their reasons, and I thought, but they are also very, they understand the nuance of politics quite well, I think. And I always learned something, especially from the older guy. I don't remember their names, but the names will come up. So I'm going to start with first of all with Lowkey, and I'm going to start just a little segment at the very end of his video. He's talking about the Middle East and what is happening, okay? And he's going to bring up uh, President Ronald Reagan first, and then I will go back to the beginning. But let me see if I can do this easily.
Bombing Iran isn't making America great again.
Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective.
There was a time when conservative politicians in the United States, like Trump's hero Ronald Reagan, would push back even lightly on what Israel was doing.
Israel must have learned that there is no way it can impose its own solutions on hatreds as deep and bitter as those that produce this tragedy. If it seeks to do so, it will only sink more deeply into the quagmire that looms before it. Those outsiders who have fed the flames of civil war in Lebanon for so many years need to learn that the fire will consume them too if it is not put out. And we must all rededicate ourselves to the cause of peace. I re-emphasize my call for early progress to solve the Palestinian issue and repeat the U.S. proposals, which are now even more urgent.
It seems those times are no more. Israel is today a psychopathic entity which cannot be restrained.
Okay, so this is how it goes on for a little bit, but let me bring him back to the very, very beginning now of his video.
The same people that brought you the war in Iraq, which killed over 1 million people, are now bringing you the war against Iran. The Make America Great Again supporters should be scratching their heads.
They said, he will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars.
Donald Trump went to Saudi Arabia and said he was not a neocon, that he did not believe in remaking the region in America's image.
This great transformation has not come from Western intervention or neocons. The so-called nation builders wrecked far more nations than they built, and the interventionists were intervening in complex societies that they did not even understand themselves.
The neocons had free reign in the 2000s under George Bush. What's happening now under Trump is the same forces are seeking to remake the region.
There is no question whatsoever that Saddam is seeking and is working and is advancing towards the development of nuclear weapons. No question whatsoever.
The same night Israel struck Iran, Donald Trump took to his social media account and stated that he is still committed to a diplomatic resolution with Iran. That was part of a long trajectory of feints by the Trump administration to try and lull Iran and the rest of us into a false sense of security. Or is he being controlled? Donald Trump will repeat the mantra,
America first, America first, America first.
But when you look down his list of funders, it seems like it might just be Israel first. One of Trump's largest funders, giving him $100 million, is Miriam Adelson, the widow of Sheldon Adelson. Sheldon Adelson bankrolled Donald Trump's first election as president of the United States. Sheldon Adelson very publicly supported the use of nuclear weapons against Iran.
You pick up your cell phone and you call somewhere in Nebraska and you say, okay, let it go. So there's an atomic weapon goes over ballistic missiles in the middle of the desert that doesn't hurt a soul. Maybe a couple of rattlesnakes and scorpions or whatever. And then you say, see, the next one is in the middle of Tehran.
The media and Israel's
Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to bring due dissidence, and then I will go back at the end to Lowkey. I'm sort of playing about because they're going to take up this about contributions to President Trump and so on. Okay, so let me go now to due dissidence.
All right here. So I hope you guys are ready.
We're worthy and unworthy victims.
That's right. Exactly. So we have to play this again. This is a relevant piece of video. Most of you have seen this already, so bear with us. But it bears a repeat viewing. Here is General Wesley Clark in 2007 revealing that in the days and months after 9/11, he was informed by top brass at the Bush administration that the plan was to topple 7 countries in 5 years, ending, of course, with Iran.
After 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me. And one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, No. He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper. He said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense office today. And he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran."
Finishing off with Iran, that's right. The only problem, of course.
Okay, so that is they introduced this in order to obviously continue talking about it, and now they're going to introduce an interview themselves with an author, James Bamford, who wrote The Candidate and the Candidate and the Spy. I will put all this information down below with the link so that you can watch the whole video, okay? The Candidate and the Spy, it was an article on the Nation journal. Okay, so let me now go back here. And
would lessen with time. That brings us to 2015, when Donald Trump takes his ride down the escalator, and over the next year, he has this very unlikely ascendancy to the presidency. According to MSNBC, that ascendancy came with the help of Russia, which is not exactly true. Close, but no cigar. No, he was actually colluding with Israel. There was a huge write-up by James Bamford in The Nation magazine, the Trump campaign's collusion with Israel. It even got the cover story on that print. The Candidate and the Spy was the name of that edition of The Nation magazine. And so here is James Bamford on Democracy Now! In 2023 talking about how, yes, Trump was aided and abetted in 2016 by a foreign power. It just wasn't the foreign power that the media thought it was, or rather, wasn't the foreign power that the media wanted to admit it was. They knew full well that the collusion was between Trump and Israel. And of course, they did not collude with Trump to win him the White House for no reason. There were strings attached. What do you think those might be? Well, let's take a look at this. A few minutes, but it's definitely worth watching because I know probably most of you haven't seen this. This story got very little coverage at the time. Why do you think? Because it's an indictment of both the intelligence agencies and the media, but here it is.
And why we know a lot. Talk about what happened, why we know a lot about Russia, or at least a lot is made of and going after Russia, saying it tried to overthrow the 2016 election or spin it for Trump. What actually is documented here is Israel's involvement. And yet Mueller report, Senate Intelligence Committee, it looks like they knew, but just didn't want to talk about it.
Well, exactly. The documents I got are from the FBI. There are the FBI affidavit about this. There's documents, numerous quotes from the secret agent, the Israeli secret agent sent by Netanyahu, talking about the PM, which the FBI agent indicates was the prime minister, and lays out a months-long plot, basically from May of 2016 till the fall of 2016, right up to the election. This was investigated by the Mueller team. It was the Mueller team, the Mueller FBI agents who actually got a search warrant for the secret agent's communications. And that's what these documents are. These are the basis of that investigation from the FBI and the Mueller team. But all this was redacted from the final Mueller report. All they focused on was Russia, and in the end, they basically gave Russia a bill of health. They said that there was no collusion between Russia and the Trump campaign. They left out a little bit from the report, and that's that there was collusion, but it was from Netanyahu and Israel to the Trump campaign. It went on for months and months and involved providing the Trump campaign with secret access to the information that the Russians were picking up from Hillary Clinton's campaign and the DNC. In other words, the Israelis, they have a very, very sophisticated eavesdropping organization, Unit 8200. It's their equivalent of the NSA. And they were eavesdropping on the Russians and eavesdropping on Wikileaks, and they were, Julian Assange, and they were picking up all this information that the Russians were getting from the Clinton campaign and the DNC. And rather than giving it to the President of the United States, to Obama, which is what an ally is supposed to do, especially one that gets $4 billion a year, they instead were giving it to the Trump campaign, secretly giving it to the Trump campaign in order to get concessions.
In order to get concessions. So Lottie said there, we're going to take a quick game break there. So this reporting is sourced from text messages between the Israeli liaison and Roger Stone. Now, Roger Stone, a dirty trickster going back decades all the way to the Nixon years, very intelligent and mischievous political operative. And so he was getting Russian dirt. It's not that the Russians weren't gathering dirt. It's that the Russians were not the ones colluding with the Trump campaign. The Israelis were taking the Russian information and giving it to Roger Stone. And there's no doubt in my mind that Roger Stone, evil genius that he is, knew that as long as he went through Israel, he would not be caught. He would get away with it because he knew that the media, nor any of our bought and paid for members of government are ever going to want to admit that Israel meddles illegally in our electoral process. So he figures, hey, I can get Russian dirt through Israel. If I get it directly from the Russians, they're going to blow the whistle on that because Russia bad. If I go through Israel, I'm going to walk out of this squeaky clean. And that's what happened. and that's what happened. He ended up getting away with it. Now, of course, Israel did not do this for free, so they demanded some concessions in exchange for helping Donald Trump win the presidency. Let's see what those concessions were.
From Trump when he became president, and hopefully they were going to help make him president.
Let's talk about that moment, why this was so critical for Netanyahu. Talk about the quartet, the direction Obama and the quartet were going in, and why Netanyahu wanted Trump to win.
Well, a key reason he wanted Trump to win was because Trump vowed to throw out the nuclear agreement with Iran.
See, it's starting to make a little sense, is it now, folks? They helped him win so he would throw out the nuclear agreement with Iran. And why might he want to do that? Well, I think we got our answer this past weekend, did we not? But that's not all.
That the Obama administration worked very hard on and was very useful to the United States. And Netanyahu didn't like it. He didn't want it. He wanted Trump to get rid of it, and Trump was planning to do that. But he wanted a second thing, too. The Obama administration was putting a great deal of pressure on Netanyahu to work out an agreement with the Palestinians over Jerusalem, which was divided. The final agreement over Jerusalem was going to be divided between the Palestinians and Israel. Israel wanted, Netanyahu wanted the entire city to be Israeli. And so they were putting pressure on the Trump campaign saying, look, this is what we want, and we can help Trump get elected, but we have to have basically have to have an agreement that he's going to help us on this issue over the sovereignty of Jerusalem. And in the very end, that's what happened. There was a secret meeting, or at least a private meeting, in the Trump penthouse in New York, just between Netanyahu and Trump. And after it was over, Trump came out, and that's what he said. He said that if I'm elected president, I'm going to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem and declare Jerusalem the capital of Israel. So the Israelis got what they wanted, and Trump got what he wanted, and the American public was screwed in the meantime.
Yeah, seems like that's the way it all went down. Sure seems like that's the way it all went down. Trump was propelled to the presidency, not by the Russians, but by the Israelis in exchange for those two pretty big favors. Agitate with the Palestinians by moving the embassy to Jerusalem, and of course, agitate with the Iranians by scrapping that pesky nuclear deal, which is going to make it very hard to justify a war against that seventh country that the United States always had on its list. So,
okay, so now I'm going to, what do you think about this? So now I'm going to go back to Lowkey and continue the argument, okay? So bear with me here. Okay, let me then...
To the Middle East, supposedly responsible for negotiating peace, was recently awarded in the presence of Trump's top funder, Miriam Adelson, by Eli Beer, a key individual responsible for lies about October 7th.
I saw in my own eyes a woman 4 months pregnant. They came into her house in front of her kids. They opened up her stomach, took out the baby, and stabbed the little tiny baby in front of her, and then shot her in front of her family. I saw little kids who were beheaded. We didn't know which head belongs to which kid. We saw a little baby in an oven. They put him in, these bastards put these babies in an oven and put on the oven.
Witkoff stated that Donald Trump was such a supporter of Zionist ambitions in the region that he could actually be Prime Minister of Israel.
He's an incredible friend to the Jewish people. No disrespect to Prime Minister Netanyahu. I think the President, Trump, could be the first sitting president who could also be the Prime Minister of Israel at the same time.
And that Iran was an existential threat to the world.
An existential threat to Israel, as does an Iran with a large amount of missiles. That is as big an existential threat as the nuclear threat. And this is an existential threat to the United States and the free world and the entire GCC.
They are pushing the idea of this being a preemptive strike against Iran.
We have no choice but to act, and act now. The hardest decision any leader has to make is to thwart a danger before it is fully materialized.
That sounds very familiar.
This requires preemption. I have to say that in the history of democracies, preemption has been, in my mind, the most difficult choice for leaders to make.
In Netanyahu's speech announcing the Rising Lioness operation, he stated,
"Our action will help make the world a much safer place."
That sounds very familiar.
If you take out Saddam's regime, I guarantee you that it will have enormous positive reverberations on the region.
The war on Iran has been brought to you by the same people that brought you the war on Iraq.
The most compelling case for preemption against Saddam's regime, I believe, was not made by the president's powerful words this morning, but by the savage action of the terrorists themselves on September 11th. And do the various critics, especially overseas, believe that a clear connection between Saddam and September 11th must be established before we have a right to prevent the next September 11th? Well, I think not.
With very similar justifications being rolled out.
We will not let the world's most dangerous regime get the world's most dangerous weapons. And Iran plans to give those weapons, nuclear weapons, to its terrorist proxies. That would make the nightmare of nuclear terrorism all too real. The increasing range of Iran's ballistic missiles would bring that nuclear nightmare to the cities of Europe and eventually to America.
Netanyahu has been saying this for over 3 decades.
If Iran acquires a nuclear bomb, it could use any one of these shadowy groups to threaten the United States, threaten the West. Time is running out. They're very close. They're 6 months away from being about 90% of having the enriched uranium for an atom bomb. Weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs. They have the wherewithal, the stored up, preserved knowledge to make a bomb very quickly. And if not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months, less than a year.
A main lobby group pushing for this war for many, many years is United Against a Nuclear Iran. This organization is full to the brim of former Israeli intelligence figures and key neocon actors. It is led by the brother of the man that brought us the war in Iraq, George Bush. Jeb Bush is the senior leadership of United Against a Nuclear Iran. Who else is with him?
Okay, so he goes on to mention a lot of people. Let me cut here a little bit and go to another section.
Saying that military action was a resounding success. Same people that brought you the war in Iraq are now bringing you the war against Iran.
The declared policy of the United States of America should be the overthrow of the mullahs regime in Tehran.
Nasser, you have lost.
Okay, and another one.
$36 million people across 3,000 demonstrations globally protested against the war in Iraq. But our political elites still took us into it. The US occupation displaced 1 in 25 Iraqis and killed over 1 million. In the first month of the US occupation of Iraq, it dropped 29,199 bombs. So when Israel bombs a nuclear facility in Iran, you have to remember the bombing of Fallujah in Iraq caused a 38-fold increase in leukemia and a 10-fold increase in breast cancer among women. The bombings which take place today will continue to reverberate for decades to come. There are those who talk about the idea of reparations today for Iraq, but some people did get reparations. Halliburton was given $18 million worth of reparations by the US government for supposed lost profits during the pre-2003 government. Who else got reparations for the Iraq War? Bechtel got $7 million. Mobil got $2.3 million. Shell got $1.6 million. Nestle got $2.6 million. Pepsi got $3.8 million. But Israeli farmers received $8 million, and Israeli hotels and travel agencies received $15 million in reparations from Iraq's money, or supposed reparations of lost profits. Not only will they bomb you, kill you, and destroy your people, they will make you pay for it. Those support.
Wow, that's I told you that he can make his point across and that he has done some research. I hope I'll stop here. I have nothing to add to that. So I hope that you let me know in the comments, please, what you think. And I will certainly put both videos and their links down below in the description box. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you and bye-bye.